Shalom, I'm Rabbi Stephen Sachs, Sustaining Others, Pesach Yizkor 5780. You'll forgive me for saying this, but at the end of Birkat Hamazon, the grace after meals, we make a statement which sounds false. Na'ar hayiti gam zikanti v'lo ra'iti tzaddik ne'azav v'zaro mevakesh lachem. I was once young, I'm now old, but I have never seen a tzaddik, a righteous man forsaken, nor his seed beg for bread. It's a beautiful line from Tehillim, from Psalms, but do you really buy it? You've never seen a righteous man forsaken? We're about to recite Yizkor and memorialize the martyrs of the Shoah, of the Holocaust, those who died Kiddush Hashem. They weren't forsaken, and don't give me they deserve to die because of some sin or the sins they committed, or because of sins they committed in a past life. That's narishkeit. We're not interested in that. However, Rabbi Moshe Furstein from Boston does come up with a better explanation regarding this idea we've never seen a righteous man forsaken. He points to Megillat Esther, the scroll of Esther, where Esther says, Eicha uchal ra'iti. How can I bear to watch, ra'iti, to watch, the destruction of my people? How can I bear to watch, ra'iti again, to see, to watch, the destruction of my family? Here, as you see, we're translating ra'iti as not to see, but to watch, to stand by. She's saying, I can't stand by and watch the destruction of my family and my people. So when we say, Lo ra'iti, I have never seen a tzaddik, a righteous man, forsaken, we're not giving testimony that God has never stood by and watched the righteous forsaken. What we're doing is we're challenging ourselves to not stand by and watch the righteous as they're forsaken, as they suffer. We are saying when the righteous and when the innocent suffer, we're going to do our part to try to alleviate their suffering, to ensure they don't suffer. That's the lesson of Lechem Oni, the matzah that we're continuing to eat over Pesach. In the Pesach story, God came in and said, I could no longer watch the innocent, the righteous, my own children, suffer at the hands of the Mitzrayim, at the hands of the Egyptians. And he intervened. So we now, at the Seder table, follow God's lead and declare, all those who are hungry, let them come in, and we're going to care for them. Eat with us. We'll feed you. In other words, just as God stepped in, intervened to help us during our time of suffering, all those in suffering, we are not going to forsake you. We have plenty here at our Seder table. Please come and join us. In fact, the Talmud in Pesachim teaches us it's a communal responsibility to ensure that even the poorest of the poor are able to afford the 4 cups of wine. Everyone is free and should be treated as such. And the symbolizing, by the way, the Yachatz, the symbolizing of the breaking of the middle piece of matzah, also reminds us that we've been freed, and it's our mentality, it should be our mentality as free men to share with others, to give back to others now that we're free. Think about what you do when you break food and you share it. You're saying, I have plenty and I'm willing to share. That's a free man's mentality. I have, I'm willing to share. A slave mentality is whatever little I can get my hands on, I'm going to squirrel away and keep it for myself. Primo Levi, who is an Auschwitz survivor, explains that in the camps, the law was you eat what's yours, and anything else you could get your hands on, you eat as well. You eat the food of others if you could get your hands on it as well. Now, it's not selfish, it's an act of desperation. Then he continues that in 1945, as the Nazis were fleeing due to the Russian advance, they took all the prisoners who could walk on these brutal death marches. But others were left in the camps, those who were too ill to move. So he tells a dramatic story of the change of mentality from the slave mentality of whatever I could get my hands on is mine to we have enough, we've been freed, we could now share. What happened was, as the Nazis left, those left in the camp were suffering from bitter cold and a lack of food. So Primo Levi, along with two other men, worked tirelessly to try to fix the hole in the window and get heat going in the oven to heat the camp. When they finally were able to do so, he tells that a sense of well-being came over the prisoners who were in the camp. And someone then suggested giving pieces of bread to the three men, one of them being Primo Levi, who had worked to fix the window and get the oven working, in other words, heat the camp again. What had happened here? These people now saw hope. They saw the end of their slavery, their avdut, was coming to an end. And instead of trying to hoard everything for themselves, the little bits of scraps they could simply hoard for themselves, instead they began to see themselves as free men and women again, and were willing to share with others. You helped out by fixing and creating heat in a space for us. We're going to thank you and give you bread. We're going to give you something from ours and get something which was ours and give it to you. When you're able to give in gratitude, that's an act of freedom. Again, no longer do you have to hoard every little scrap for yourself. You're free and able to make the choice of sharing because you don't need to hoard every single little thing for yourself. Pesach reminds us that God was willing to intervene so we didn't have to live like slaves. V'lo ra'iti tzadik ne'azav, I have never seen a righteous man forsaken. That verse from Tehillim reminds us it's our job to emulate God's behavior and ensure that others don't suffer. It's our responsibility to make sure that the righteous are not forsaken.